Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. First thing I got for you right here is from Bloomberg. China warns Taiwan leader to avoid McCarthy as she visits the U.S.
Bloomberg, China warned the U.S. and Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen that any meeting with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy would be a serious provocation, raising the stakes for her trip to the U.S. Most read from Bloomberg. $52 billion chip-making plan is racing toward failure. FBI releases files on Ivana Trump. New Yorkers are moving to these three Florida cities. UBS veteran Armati returns to lead Credit Suisse takeover. Banks in France face more than $1.1 billion fines after raids. Tsai left Taipei on Wednesday, bound for New York on a plane that was guarded by F-16 fighters as it headed over the Pacific. She'll later visit two Central American allies, and on the way home she's planning to stop in Los Angeles, where she's expected to meet with McCarthy. We resolutely oppose this and will definitely take measures to respond, Zhu Fenglian, spokeswoman for China's Taiwan Affairs Office, said at a regular press briefing in Beijing when asked about the potential meeting. She gave no further details. If she meets with McCarthy, it will be another provocation that severely violates the One China principle, damages China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and sabotages peace and stability of Taiwan Strait, Zhu said. Just before she boarded her flight, Tsai said that pressure won't stop us. We won't give in and won't be provocative, she said. Then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit in August last year to Taipei prompted China to respond with unprecedented military exercises simulating a naval blockade of the island, an event that could someday serve as a prelude to an actual invasion. Taiwan leaders have routinely transited through the U.S. over the years, with Tsai herself making 6 previous stops. Her last such transit through Denver in 2019 elicited complaints from Chinese state media that the U.S. risks damaging the most important bilateral relationship in the world. Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last year, coupled with rising tensions between the U.S. and China over everything from Russia's war in Ukraine to advanced technology, make this trip more sensitive. Ahead of Tsai's visit, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke with China's top diplomat Wang Yi on Friday in a call that neither side publicized, people familiar with the matter said. U.S.-China ties plummeted in February when the U.S. shot down a Chinese balloon it said was spying, prompting Secretary of State Antony Blinken to cancel a trip to the Asian nation. China has since rebuffed U.S. efforts to set up a phone call between President Joe Biden and counterpart Xi Jinping, which would be their first conversation since they met in November and pledged to steady the relationship.
You're going to read the rest of this in my description box if you'd like to know more about it. And see what else we got here. This from the Time. Just say no and veto Putin from taking over UN Security Council.
Teeth seems like the worst April Fool's joke in history, but an indicted war criminal, Vladimir Putin, is about to take control of the UN Security Council, with the implicit blessing of the United States, France, and the U.K. just weeks after his global criminal indictment. On top of this, the man just designated as Putin's emissary to address this session of the Security Council is his foreign minister Sergei Lavrov, who stormed out of the Security Council this fall when confronted with evidence of Russia atrocities against Ukraine. Last month, a G20 summit in New Delhi erupted in laughter when Lavrov complained that Ukraine started the war by attacking Russia. How can the U.S. watch as this speeding car heads towards the cliff? In 1986, as First Lady, Nancy Reagan coined the expression "just say no" regarding drug abuse. The U.S. must use every ounce of its influence, including exercising its rarely used veto power, to block Russian President Vladimir Putin's crony at the UN from assuming the presidency of the UN Security Council and abusing the platform of the UN to whitewash Russia's genocidal war in Ukraine. On March 17, 2023, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for President Putin, asserting that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Putin bears individual criminal responsibility for an array of atrocities and war crimes committed against non-combatant civilians since his invasion last year of their peaceful sovereign neighbor Ukraine. There are 5 permanent members of the Security Council: the US, China, France, Russia, and the UK, which are collectively known as the P5. Each of them individually can veto any resolution. The Security Council's 10 elected members, which serve 2-year, rotating, non-consecutive terms, are not afforded veto power, and of course no other UN member nations have that power. In the decades since Putin's return to office in 2012, Russia has exercised that valuable power a stunning 24 times, twice a year. China has used it 10 times, once a year. But the US has only exercised that power 3 times over the decade. What could be a better cause than now to use that power now?
In my description box if you like. I don't think it should be in the UN Security Council myself. Anyway, let's go to the next one. This is from EURweb. EURweb. I don't know what it is. It says here in California, a couple takes legal action after FBI seized $40,000 from bank. See what this is about.
Asterisk, a California couple is speaking out about how the FBI seized $40,000 in savings they had in a deposit box at the Beverly Hills, California branch of U.S. private vaults. The feds reportedly seized more than $86 million in cash, jewelry, and gold from 1,400 safe deposit boxes amid a money laundering investigation. The customers whose accounts were impacted by the March 2021 raid were not suspected of any crimes, according to court documents obtained by Insider. Linda Martin said the agency has not explained why it refuses to return her money. She and her husband Reggie Martin have teamed with the nonprofit Institute for Justice for a class action lawsuit. The FBI took my savings nearly 2 years ago, but has never told me why, Linda Martin said in a press release. It's been a confusing and frustrating process from the day my money was taken. No one should have to go through this. As a result of the Beverly Hills raid, U.S. private vaults shut down and reportedly pleaded guilty to conspiracy to launder drugs. They were just supposed to identify owners so they could claim their property, but the FBI instead acted on its months-old plan to search and try to forfeit the contents of any box worth more than $5,000, the Institute for Justice said in a statement. The FBI reportedly sent forfeiture notices to the hundreds of people affected in the raid and reportedly informed them that the government wanted to take their property forever, even though they were not named in the indictment against the company. In Linda Martin's lawsuit, filed on March 7, the FBI is alleged to have violated the Fifth Amendment, which requires government officials to provide specific reasons why forfeitures are appropriate. The government shouldn't get to take your property if it can't tell you what you did wrong. Using civil forfeiture, the government decides for itself whether to take and try to keep property, even when it doesn't suspect the owners of any crime, said Bob Belden, a lawyer with the Institute for Justice. He added, then, the FBI sends copy and paste forfeiture notices that fail to tell owners anything about why it is trying to take their property. That's not only wrong, it's unconstitutional.
We know cops and government officials, they'll take money for any reason. I watched this one YouTube video about this veteran. He don't trust banks, so he kept all his money with him. And the state trooper took his money, tried to keep it. Make a long story short, he finally got it back with lawsuits, but it's on a YouTube channel. I forgot which one it was. Let's go on to the next one here. This is from Benzinga. Kim Jong flexes nuclear arsenals as warships arrives in Korean Peninsula for military drills.
Kim Jong-un, on Wednesday, flexed his nuclear arsenal as North Korea unveiled new nuclear warheads amid the U.S. aircraft carrier's planned arrival in South Korea for military drill. What happened? North Korea unveiled smaller nuclear warheads and vowed to produce more weapons-grade nuclear material to exponentially expand its arsenal, the state media reported. Trending: Jeff Bezos is making it easier than ever to become a landlord with just $100. Must read. North Korea's state news agency KCNA released photos of the warheads, dubbed Hwasong-31s, and said Kim visited the Nuclear Weapons Institute. The report added that during the visit, Kim inspected new tactical nuclear weapons and technology for mounting warheads on ballistic missiles. He also reportedly took stock of nuclear counterattack operation plans. Experts warned that North Korea's compact nuclear warheads are worrisome as they are powerful enough to mount on intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of striking the U.S. It has something more powerful in a smaller space. That's worrisome, Kyun-Wai Soo, professor emeritus of nuclear engineering at Seoul National University, told Reuters. This came after Kim, on Tuesday, urged his military to increase the production of nuclear arms while emphasizing the importance of being prepared to use these weapons whenever necessary against the enemy. Kim's instruction to ramp up the production of weapons-grade materials is farsighted and aimed at exponentially expanding Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal, the state media said.
Okay, now let's go on to the next one here. This is from Business Insider. North Korea is showing off an underwater nuclear attack drone. It says can cause a radioactive tsunami, but the threat is likely exaggerated. Let's see what it says here.
North Korea has tested an underwater nuclear attack drone, similar to Russia's Poseidon torpedo. Pyongyang claims the weapon could cause radioactive tsunamis, but it has been met with skepticism. The new weapons reveal comes as Kim Jong-un is ramping up efforts to boost nuclear development. North Korea has released new imagery of testing of what it claims is an underwater nuclear attack drone that can be deployed to devastating effect, but officials and expert observers believe Pyongyang's claims to be exaggerated. Pyongyang first tested the weapon last week after over a decade of development, sending it cruising off the country's eastern coast at a depth of up to nearly 500 feet for around 60 hours. State media said that a test warhead detonated underwater and hailed the mission as a success because it fully confirmed the weapon's capabilities. The mission of the underwater nuclear strategic weapon is to stealthily infiltrate into operational waters and make a superscale radioactive tsunami through underwater explosion to destroy naval striker groups and major operational ports of the enemy, state-run media outlet KCNA said. This nuclear underwater attack drone can be deployed at any coast and port or towed by a surface ship for operation, state media boasted. Another round of testing for the drone, named Hail-1, was conducted over the weekend, and that time, the North Korean device traveled over 370 miles for more than 41 hours, state media reported, adding that the test warhead was correctly set off. The recent testing marks the first time that North Korea has publicly revealed this type of potential weapon, which seems to resemble a similar device in development by another isolated government, Russia. For years, Moscow has been working on an intercontinental autonomous nuclear torpedo, sometimes referred to as a drone, called the Poseidon. That weapon has been described as a doomsday device because it has been speculated that the payload could potentially cause a radioactive tsunami, as Pyongyang claims its weapon can do.
You can read the rest of this in my description box. We can go into the next one now. But tell me, what do you think about all these things here? This is from Bloomberg. U.S. hypersonic missile test marred by in-flight data loss. I think this is important here.
Bloomberg. The second test flight of Lockheed Martin Corp's hypersonic missile prototype was marred by the weapon's failure to transmit in-flight performance data. Two people familiar with the results said, a setback for U.S. efforts to catch up with China and Russia in a key weapons capability. The transmission failure and loss of data in the March 13 exercise wasn't reported in a statement issued by the U.S. Air Force on March 24 that said the test met several of the objectives and team engineers and testers are collecting data for further analysis. After being released from a B-52H bomber off the southern coast of California, the warhead successfully separated from its rocket booster and proceeded into flight. After that, however, the data link transmitting in-flight performance information failed, said the people, who asked not to be identified discussing non-public information. Telemetry data of the type that was lost is crucial to helping the Pentagon understanding the weapon's flight characteristics. The flight team has begun a failure analysis, the people said. A key question is whether the failure was caused by a faulty data link or resulted from a flaw in the glider warhead. The test was important because it's the second of 4 that are planned for the prototype operational hypersonic missile, known as the Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, or ARRW. It's the service's top hypersonic program and meant to compete with Russian and Chinese programs that have already been successful.
Box if you like. And my last one's coming up here from Market Insider. Bond markets are flashing a recession signal that suggests that Fed may be about to step in to quickly cut rates.
The bond market is flashing a recession signal that suggests the Fed will quickly cut rates. That's due to the large jump in short-term treasuries, which the Fed has previously responded to by cutting rates. That can only mean a recession is close at hand, DataTrek's Nicholas Colas said. Bond markets are flashing a major recession signal, and it suggests an incoming downturn may be steep enough for the Federal Reserve to step in and quickly cut interest rates, according to DataTrek. In a note on Wednesday, the research firm pointed to the recent surge in yields on short-term treasuries, with the iShares 1 to 3-year Treasury exchange-traded fund moving up 2 standard deviations in recent days. There have only been 3 cases when short-term treasuries had jumped by that amount, the firm said. March 2020, at the wake of the pandemic-induced recession. August 2007 and September 2008, in the midst of the Great Financial Crisis. October 2002, in the last month of the bear market amid the dot-com bubble bust. In all of these cases, the Fed moved quickly to cut interest rates, which suggests the signal's reappearance could be an omen for markets. The default scenario baked into asset prices is based on the Fed pivoting quickly to lowering policy rates. That can only mean a recession is close at hand, one that would reduce inflation and be steep/deep enough to force the Fed to act, DataTrek's co-founder Nicholas Colas said. Central bankers have raised interest rates aggressively over the past year to lower inflation, with the Fed funds target rate at 4.75 to 5%, the highest rates have been since 2007. But since inflation is still well above the 2% target, the Fed would only pull back on interest rates if the economy slips into a downturn, Colas previously has said, adding that he didn't see the U.S. going through the next 12 months without a recession. His outlook echoes that of other grim prognosticators, with legendary investors like Jeffrey Gundlach and Jeremy Grantham warning a downturn is imminent. In particular, experts say the risk of recession has increased with the recent collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, as banks' reluctance to lend slows the economy.
Oh, that's all I got for you today. I hope you like what you heard. And everything will be in my description box, like I said. Don't forget to like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. And I thank you for watching.